Listen, keeping in the spirit of the elves aren't as good and pure as you might think they are. It was more than just the sons of Fëanor that was jacked up. Listen, the Sylvan elves or the Teleri had a reason not to like the Eldor, which are the Noldor, because Fëanor and his sons committed the first kinslaying back on Valinor, so they had a reason not to trust them. But listen, King Thingol of Doriath, before he even knew this happened, before he ever knew this happened, when Morgoth was in Middle-earth running roughshod on everybody before Fëanor and Fingolfin came, his wife Maeglin is a Maiar. She has real power. She created a barrier upon the lands of Doriath where you couldn't get in or out unless they wanted you to. So whether you was human or elf, they didn't come to your aid. They just let everybody else suffer. My boy Círdan was getting his fade ran. I told you Círdan got his fade ran in every age, first, second, and third. The Havens was getting ran through before Fëanor showed up. And before Fingolfin and his people came. They was. And Thingol didn't give a damn, because if you wasn't none of his, you know what? Hey, he done took enough. He couldn't spur nobody else. Listen, he was the first one to just say, hey, get somebody else to do it. You know what I'm talking about? But anyway, man, let me tell you about this elf named Maeglin. Because Maeglin is... His daddy probably was worse. His daddy was named Eöl. Listen, Fingolfin had a daughter. His daughter decided to go for a walk in the woods one day. They had this whole hidden empire called Gondolin, which her brother Turgon had. You know, so she went on a little trip and walked through the woods. Eöl seen her, fell in love with her. He put a spell on her and basically kidnapped this woman. Like, he kept her against her will and her power. She didn't know that she was under the influence or under some spell or whatever he did to her. But anyway, they had a child named Maeglin, and they lived in the woods. She would always tell her son about Gondolin, this hidden kingdom that they had hidden from Morgoth, the last hidden elven kingdom that Morgoth was ever worried about. And one day she built up the courage to go ahead and leave Eöl. And Maeglin stole his sword. Well, unbeknownst to them, Eöl followed them all the way back to Gondolin, this hidden kingdom that nobody else knew about but the people that lived there or were from there. And Eöl tried to kill his son. He tried to kill him with a poison dart when his wife jumped in the way, and he accidentally killed his wife. Because of this, King Turgon got pissed and threw him off the ramparts, threw him off the top of the tower. And before he died, he spoke a curse against his own son and against Gondolin and against the King Turgon, because nobody in this story can die without cursing people on their way to hell. I don't know why you just kill them so they can't talk. But that's what happened. That's what happened. And I had to mention this because sins of a father, blood of my blood, generational curses, in Tolkien's world, they very real. Listen, there was this guy named Turin. You know what I'm talking about? Turin Turambar. That's how you say his name. Turin Turambar. He was a special human that was sent to Gondolin to warn them that, hey man, y'all might need to pack up and leave because Morgoth is eventually going to find his way off in here. It's happening. You might as well prepare. I know you enjoyed your time of peace in this hidden kingdom, but it's coming. But the King Turgon and his pride, hey, I built all this up. I love it. I ain't going nowhere. Get somebody else to do it. You know how they do. I always got to set it up. Anyway, Turin Turambar was a mighty man, a mighty warrior. A mighty warrior, worthy of renown. And I'm not saying Maeglin wasn't, because Maeglin was too. He fought in the Battle of Unnumbered Tears. I'll tell you about that one day too. He was a great miner. He mined this special ore that was stronger than the other metals that people had. And he had a sword that was made out of meteorite. But he was in love with his first cousin, the daughter of King Turgon. He was in love with his first cousin. And that just never was going to work. Because y'all too close to kin. You can't get down like that. But he felt like because of his status, he should have her. And that just wasn't what it was, because she was actually in love with Turin Turambar. She was in love with Turin. You know what I'm talking about? Tuor or Turin? I think it's Tuor. I might be getting mixed up. They names so close. It's Tuor. She was in love with Tuor. You know what I'm saying? She was in love with the human, and he didn't like that. He hated that. He hated every last bit of it. And one day while he was outside the city, he got captured by Morgoth's spies. He got took back to Morgoth, and he gave up the game. He gave it all up. He told everything. He told Jesus on God. He told God on Jesus. That's how much he told. He was willing to give it all up for one thing only, so he could marry his cousin. You know what I'm talking about? Look at that. Boy, just like your daddy. He just like your damn daddy. That's just up to no good. Anyway, man, the city got sacked, man. Morgoth done sent dragons in, Balrogs. A lot of people had, you know what? The Fall of Gondolin is a great story. I got to cover that at some point. That's a very good story. But anyway, he tried to capture Ildris, which was Turgon's daughter, and force her to marry him when Tuor showed up and threw him off the side of the tower. He died the same way his daddy died. He died the same way Eöl died. But he not the only one. They're not the only one. Listen, Tuor had a cousin named Turin. Now, this is Turin. Turin has a really sad story because his father, Huron, was cursed by Morgoth and chained to a tree and forced to watch his kids and wife and everybody die. That's a whole nother story, too, that's worth covering. But anyway, listen, Turin became like a protege. You know what I'm saying? He was invited into Nargothrond. The Nargothrond, the northern kingdom that the elves had. He was invited to be a protege, to learn their ways and be, protected and raised up for the things that his father and his uncle them did in the battle of unnumbered tears. You know what I'm saying? And while he was there, the king and their daughter kind of fell in love with him too. And one of the elves, Saros became jealous. Saros became so jealous that Saros tried to sabotage him. He was plotting against him. He wanted to make a fool out of him. Well, guess what Turin did? Turin put the beats on him. Turin put belt the ass, and then stripped the man butt naked and made him run back home. Well, the elf done ran home, and on his way home, he fell in the ditch and died, which was kind of tragic because Turin didn't take it well. He ran away, and a lot of other catastrophes happened after that. So that's, that's a very tragic story. I'm just showing you that the elves weren't as good and pure as you think they was. Even in the second age, I'm talking about, Gil-galad was the high king of the elves. Like I said, Gil-galad is a Noldor. He's an Eldar. And the Sylvan elves or Green elves or Teleria, whatever you want to call them, they didn't trust the Noldor. They didn't like them. The Noldor came. They were more powerful. They were better builders. And of course, they had a kinslaying where they killed their family members and their relatives in Valinor. So they didn't like him. You know what I'm saying? Why should he be high king over Middle Earth when he left and they was gone for thousands of years and we stayed here and built up this land and dealt with Sauron and Gothmog and all these other people that Morgoth left. These woodland elves, they decided to charge in a battle against Gil-galad's wishes. And they ran all their soldiers in to get killed. Gil-galad had to save the day, but so many elves died. When you watch Lord of the Rings and you find, and Frodo and them and Gollum go to the dead marshes and you see all the dead men and elves floating in the water up under the marshes and the ghost stick his hand up and try to grab Frodo in. That's how the dead marshes came about. Because those elves did not want to listen to the Eldar. They didn't want to listen to Gil-galad, and they rushed in head first and got half the army wiped out. The elves aren't as good as pure as you think they are. It's a lot of occasions where the elves were jealous. You know what I'm saying? They were very self-centered, very conceited, and they kind of have a right to be. Listen, if you've been alive for 4,000 or 5,000 years and you're dealing with people who barely live to be 35, 40 years old, would you really respect them? Would you really respect anything they have going on? Especially if you fall in love with an elven woman who's immortal like you and she chooses to be with a man that is going to die at some point in time. You know what I'm saying? This uncouth, unkept, unclean, unsavory man. It could have been worse. Could have fell in love with the BBC. Junior.